Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. As we know, we are getting closer and closer to our holy days, and you have to remind yourself every time we're getting near these holy days that this is something that the adversary has great indignation against. And in doing that, and then in understanding that, we understand that it's, this is that point where a lot more turmoil ends up showing up, because it is not just a holy day. We have the beginning of our holy season, starting with Passover, and then rolling into Feast of Unleavened Bread and First Fruits, which all points back to the Mashiach. So understanding those things, there's a lot of turmoil that ends up going on around that time. But it's not unlike our very first Passover that we ever had. It was full of turmoil. You know, we read about the story of Passover, but sometimes the other part of that story and all of the hell that they were going through, a lot of that ends up kind of sliding by, to the point where you don't really pay attention to just how tumultuous that time was for Israel then, and it still is that same way now. It starts to get your attention, even if you get to you know, not even knowing or paying attention that the holy days are approaching. You can look up and see all of the things that start going on around this time, and know that we are getting near those holy days. And if those things are pleasing unto Yahweh, then you have to understand that they are a problem to the adversary, and he's going to use that opportunity as much as he possibly can. But before we get started, brother, would you read the oracles of the church and invite the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us, and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence.
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, we're going to begin today's sermon in Exodus chapter 10. Exodus chapter 10, and today's sermon is entitled, Letting Egypt Come Out of You. It's one thing about the children of Israel being released and freed from the captivity of Egypt. As it is written, I will send you into Egypt again, which is that bondage, which is what we have been under. But letting that mindset come out of you is something altogether different. And this is something that we are going to have to deal with. It's something that we've dealt with before. And we're going to read how our people ended up dealing with that. And hopefully by going through those things, we try to make sure that we don't end up going through the same things, that we don't come out of the Babylonian system, but then still have the Babylonian system all stuck up inside of us to the point that we can't have a righteous governmental system because we still have the mindset of Babylon controlling us. Exodus chapter 10, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart, and the heart of his servants, that I might show these my signs before him, and that you may tell in the ears of your son and of your son's son what things I have wrought in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that you may know how that I am Yah. And Moshe and Aaron came in unto Pharaoh, and said unto him, Thus said Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews, How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow will I bring the locust into your coast.
Now, each one of these things, Yahweh is bringing a plague upon Pharaoh, but each one of them is not meant to break him. Yahweh stretched the whole thing out so he can get some glory out of Pharaoh's stiff-necked attitude, because he has done the thing for so long that Yahweh doesn't want him to just repent in one swoop. So he's stretching these things out. He has the frogs, he has the lice, he has these locusts. He's going all the way down. But you can go back to the front of the beginning of these things and see what Yahweh's intention was in the beginning. And we're going to go through that, so you'll see that even each one of these things, Yahweh wouldn't let him repent. And that's what happens once you walk in something so long, he won't let you repent. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And they shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remains unto you from the hill, and shall eat every tree which grows for you out of the field. And they shall fill your houses, and the houses of all your servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither your fathers nor your fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said unto him, How long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve Yahweh their Elohim. Know you not yet that Egypt is destroyed?
Right, he couldn't see it because Yahweh won't let him see it. But all these other people see that within each and every last one of these things, Egypt is just getting more and more destroyed. But Yahweh won't let him completely repent. You have used his people up so much that now, not repenting is not going to come that way. You're going to deal with the judgment at this point. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 10 and verse 8. And Moshe and Aaron were brought again unto Pharaoh, and he said unto them, Go serve Yahweh your El. But who are they that shall go? And Moshe said, We will go with our young and with our old, with our sons and with our daughters, with our flocks and with our herds will we go, for we must hold a feast unto Yahweh. And he said unto them, Let Yahweh be so with you, as I will let you go, and your little ones. Look to it, for evil is before you.
Right. So I'm not going to let you take, all the people, so that way you can't just take off and leave. Go ahead.
Not so. Go now, you that are men, and serve Yahweh, for that you did desire. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt, and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail has left. And Moshe stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and Yahweh brought an east wind upon the land all that day, and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and rested in all the coasts of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there were no such locusts as they, neither after them shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened. And they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. And there remained not any green thing in the trees, or in the herbs of the field, through all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moshe and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against Yahweh your El, and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray you, my sin only this once, and entreat Yahweh your Elohim, that he may take away from me this death only.
Now therefore forgive, I pray you, my sin only this once. Same thing over and over. Just forgive me this time, because this is it. This is my last time. Yeah. And this thing just keep going on and on and on, but each time he swear, this is the last time. Go ahead.
And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated Yahweh. And Yahweh turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt. But Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go.
Right. So even though he is open because of the judgment, Yahweh still will not let that heart completely open up. And as we go through this, you find that it say it was 430 years to the self same day that the children of Israel had been inside of Egypt. And being under tribute for so long, they had made much merchandise out of Israel. So Yahweh wasn't just going to let it go because you got a few, slaps on the hand. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moshe stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days.
It says darkness which can be felt. I don't know how you feel darkness. That's a different kind of darkness if you can feel it. You just, man, it feel dark up in here, bro. I ain't never felt dark. I've seen dark. I ain't never felt dark. That's some different kind of darkness. Go ahead.
Verse 23. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days.
See, that'll take care of how we like to hang out all night and everybody like to go all these places. Take away them damn little lights, them damn neon lights we got here damn well. Take away all them street lights. People learn to go somewhere and sit down. See? You don't understand how much all this little neon light and all this false light that's going on that night keep you going from place to place. Let them lights go out. Folks back, you know what, man, time to go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. What's the matter? It's dark as death out there. Right. Right. When there's somebody standing beside you and you know they standing beside you, but you can't see them, so you having a little, you might well talk with your eyes closed, brother. I can't see you, but so what you gonna do tomorrow? Because today is over with. Right. That's gonna take care of that business. See, we've gotten accustomed to staying up all night. Why? Because that damn TV on all night. And that computer be on all night. And that phone can be on all night. Take all that away. Let's see how long everybody up all damn night. When you ain't got nothing sitting in your hand to pacify you all night. Some little stupid light on. Go ahead.
But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Verse 24.
And you know they got to be pissed off. You know when it's gross darkness and you can look down the street and see somebody else got light. Oh, that piss you off. You know, 'cause that's the first thing that happen when your light go out. You know, the first thing you do is look down the street. James, them still got light. The hell going on? What James them got light? Now you mad at them folks because they got light and you don't. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh called unto Moshe and said, Go you, serve Yahweh. Only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you.
Each time I need to hold something of yours so you can't fully go away. Go ahead.
And Moshe said, You must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto Yahweh our El. Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not an hoof be left behind. For therefore must we take to serve Yahweh our El. And we know not with what we must serve Yahweh until we come thither. But Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go.
Right, and see, if you don't understand the position that Pharaoh has taken against the children of Israel and how he has despitefully used them all this time, you will look at Yahweh's actions and say, well, Yahweh the one hardening his heart. Yahweh is the one that's not letting him let him go. No, because he's going to get him some glory out of this right here. So no. At the end of this, everybody going to know my name. When I get done dealing with you, everybody going to know me. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto him, Get you from me. Take heed to yourself. See my face no more. For in that day that you seeth my face, you shall die. And Moshe said, You have spoken well. I will see your face again no more.
See, sometimes Yahweh let people run off at the mouth so they can actually utter a judgment against themselves. But they feel real good in running off at the mouth, not knowing that they have uttered judgment against themselves. Keep going, bro.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence.
Right. This is what he was determined to do anyway. All right, I'll go ahead and finish this thing up. Now I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead.
When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether.
Now, when he lets you go, he going to throw you out. People keep saying, well, you know, we want to go in the wilderness. We need to go ahead and get us some tickets. We need to go ahead and prepare. We get us some tickets and back out. When he lets you go, he going to throw you out. Go ahead.
Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold.
That's when you know it's time to go. When these folks start giving us stuff, it's time. Oh, hell, we about to go. We about to go now. When they start saying, here, we got some, here you go, you Negroes, here goes some gold and some silver. We're like, all right, y'all ready? Because we about to get the hell out of here. Because when he said borrow, this is black borrowing. This is the kind of borrowing where you don't give back. Because you can't get back and you don't never see them no more. But see, this is the payment for all of the stuff that they have gotten free from Israel. All this free hard labor, all of these things, right. Now borrow all this stuff. They finna pay you for all this labor. Now you finna get it. But see, that's how Yahweh works. You get all that stuff at one time. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 11 and verse 3. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Egypt.
Now, and Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Do understand, they were captives and slaves amongst the Egyptians. He gave them favor because at this point, they are afraid of them. Understand what kind of favor he gave them because of all the turmoil that they have had to go through. Now, they're scared of them. Why you think that before, they said, man, why don't you just let this man go? These are people talking to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a man god. Now, you don't just talk to the man god. You got somebody telling him, man, just let the people go. Don't you know Egypt is destroyed? Leave these people alone. Oh, no, at this point, they are afraid of Israel. When Yahweh starts showing where he has put his power, then people start learning, you know what? I need to leave them people right there alone. Go ahead.
Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. And Moshe said, Thus saith Yahweh, About midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sits upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts.
So you're talking about all of this death that is then leading up to the Passover. You're talking about all of these plagues that were leading up to the Passover. You're talking about this darkness. You're talking about these weather-related events. We're talking about locusts, all of these animals, all of these problems is leading up to Passover. Go ahead.
And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue.
A dog won't even bark against you. The dog gonna be scared to bark. And we know the dog bark all night. So the dog gonna know that that's an Israelite. Don't bark at him. They gonna tell other dog, you better not bark at him. That's an Israelite. Don't do that. Go ahead.
Against man or beast, that you may know how that Yahweh does put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
So that you may know that Yahweh does put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. So when a brother come up in here dressed like an Egyptian, but then got an Israelite outfit on under the Egyptian outfit, I'm trying to figure out, has he forgotten what manner of man he is? Yahweh brought great destruction upon the Egyptians for what they have done to Israel. Why in the hell would you walk around with an Egyptian outfit on? Jake do some strange things, man. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And all these your servants shall come down unto me, and bow down themselves unto me, saying, Get you out, and all the people that follow you. And after that I will go out.
Get you out. And all the people that follow you, all y'all, get out. Go ahead.
And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger.
Right. Now, Yahweh will allow people to tick you off so that you can utter judgment against them as well. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. And Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
So now Yahweh is then giving these ordinances of the Passover in the midst of dealing with this so-called man God all in the same breath. And you'll find that things are happening like that, that you'll be in the middle of a war and Yahweh will start talking about, I'm going to bring you corn and wine and oil. Excuse me, could you bring me a Uzi? I'm gonna need a thank you for the corn and wine. But there's an army over that hill. So I'd appreciate it if you got a flamethrower or a bazooka or something. Hold the corn and wine right now, okay? We can enjoy that later. So in the midst of, you know, this great battle, Yahweh will start talking corn and wine and oil. And you'll be sitting there like, well, why is he talking about corn and wine? He's already moving past this. You in the middle of it. It's hard for you to move past it in the middle of it. Because you ain't got past this army that's staring at you. But he's already moved to the next thing. I'm going to bring you corn, wine, and oil. By the way, let me tell you how we're going to deal with the Passover. Now, in the beginning of the... hold on. Can we deal with these Egyptians? They got chariots and everything. You know, we got sticks and stuff over there. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Speak you unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. He shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door post of the houses, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Verse 9. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand.
Right. So now we're talking about this is a thing of straight turmoil. Eat it, but be ready to go. So this whole thing was brought in the midst of turmoil. Go ahead.
And you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Yah. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I'll pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
Now, you got to consider something. In every other plague, there were things going on in Egypt where the Egyptians were, but it excluded Goshen where Israel was. In every last one of those things, there was no separation in between you do this or you do that. Every last one of those plagues automatically did not affect Israel. Remember, they're dark in one place. It's light where the children of Israel. Now, how we end up getting into issues, once we get a little money, we like to move on the other side of town. See? So now, we got the plague, and we supposed to be over there with the light. But we in the dark, because we were like, well, no, they got better property value over here. Right, right. That all work until that plague come through there. Property value gonna go right when they realize, hey man, all the plagues is coming through over here. But consider this one thing. Right when it's time for him to utter this final thing, now Israel has to do something to separate themselves. They never had to do it through all the rest of it. Now he says, mark over your door with this blood of the lamb. 2 side posts and over the top. When I see the blood, I will avoid that house. Wait a minute. You know where we live. Why we got to do that for this one? See, this one is automatically different. So now it's not just about you being physical Israel. Now it's about Israel that's going to follow instructions. Because even if you was Israel, you were still going to die. Was your door marked over with the blood of the lamb? Well, then you're going to die. You can sit there and argue with the destroyer if you want to. No, but I'm Israel. Look at my family tree. Right. Die. Wait, what a mark over your door? Well, I ain't got. Die. Well, I had to go do something. Die. But I was busy. I stayed up the night before. I was on my computer. Die. Where is the mark that's supposed to be over your door? But look, I live right next door to some Israelites. Die. Did you follow your instructions? No other plague did they have to do that. Every other plague, they automatically was set separate from Egyptians, but not this one. When it comes down to this final thing, you are going to have to separate yourself, even from other Israel. If they don't follow the instructions, then let them die on their own. But you're going to have to make a stand as for what you're going to do and how your house is going to run and whether or not that destroyer is going into that door. It ain't got a damn thing to do with your natural lineage. So you can go to Ancestry.com if you want to and go ahead and get that up and put that on your door and see if the destroyer passed by. Oh no, it says Israel right there. Keep going to the next one. That ain't gonna work. Go ahead.
That's coming into the covenant.
Right. See, now we're getting into the things of being covered under the blood of the Mashiach. See, now we're getting into what the power of this baptism is. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 14. And this day shall be unto you a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel.
Right. You know, I think Creflo would have a problem with that because he keeps saying that soul. See, he said your soul and your body was different. So your body could sin, but your soul was still righteous. See, he'd have a problem right up in here because there's too many times it keeps saying soul and not your body. See? But you have to understand what that leaven does. Leaven causes things to rise or be puffed up. If something's going to be puffed up against Yahweh, it's going to decide that I'm just not going to follow certain things that Yahweh has orchestrated or set up. So then it's puffed up against Yahweh. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation. And in the seventh day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in the selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eats that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations shall you eat unleavened bread.
Right, and we have to thoroughly read the ingredients of things now because of just how foul the powers that be are. They put things in other things that really just don't need to be there. But so that they can put something on the shelf and make it last for 6-7 months. It has all kind of ingredients in it to preserve it. So you have to start going through things. They put leaven in water. You would not think that you have water with leaven in it. Why in the hell would there be leaven in the water? They do some very strange things here, and they love all things pig because the pig stuff is supposed to preserve things and make it longer. So you'll go and buy some turkey and find out it got pig in it. Why in the hell would you got a turkey pig? Who does that? Where did they make such an animal? I've never ran into a turkey pig. But this is what they do. So that they can make more money and stretch things out. It's about the way that they do business. And this is that Babylonian system that we have to get out of. There's absolutely nothing righteous about making something like that. You have to understand those kind of things won't be in the kingdom. People won't be standing in somewhere reading ingredients for an hour trying to figure out if it's pig and they turkey. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 verse 21. Then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning.
Right. Stay in your house. Go ahead.
For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in onto your houses to smite you.
And he could have just easily said, the destroyer won't go into Goshen. Go ahead.
And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. And it shall come to pass when you be come into the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, what mean you by this service?
Now, consider if you were not Israel, and you did live amongst these people, and you've watched these plagues, and you look up, and all of them got a lamb, and they putting blood over their door. If I wasn't Israel, damn it, there was going to be some blood over my door. You can believe that. Excuse me, got a little bit of, let me take care of that. Hold on, yeah. All right, go ahead, bro. Appreciate that. You better believe we're going to be something on mine. I don't want 10 plagues come through here. And now they marking over their door with some blood. Hey, it's going to be a bloody door up in here, Jack. Go ahead.
Verse 27, that you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshipped. And the children of Israel went away and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron. So did they. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle.
Now, all of this death is after he has then told us, all right, these are all of the things about the Passover. This is the stuff you're going to do. Now, don't eat unleavened bread. Do this, do this, do this. All right, now start the death. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also.
Take all your stuff. Now I don't want nothing, but bless me on your way out. Right. Go ahead. Did you finish that?
Yep.
Go to Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4, and read verses 21 through 32. 21 through 23.
Exodus chapter 4 and verse 21. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, when you go to return into Egypt, see that you do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand. But I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go.
Right. Automatically. You're going to do all of this stuff, but he not going to listen to you. But you doing it for judgment. Go ahead.
And you shall say unto Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto you, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if you refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay your son, even your firstborn.
In other words, Yahweh was going to kill his kids anyway. He stated this part from the beginning. This is the beginning of the whole thing. And then he's going to stretch the whole thing out. Then he gets to the point where he's going to execute that judgment just like he said in the beginning. Now let's go back to Exodus chapter 12. So Yahweh had already determined what he was going to do. But at this point that now this is happening to Pharaoh, and this is what happened because we have that selective amnesia. Pharaoh has forgotten how he's killed his Israel's firstborn. See, Yahweh said, Israel is my firstborn. He forgot how he had all of them dumped in the river, how he had all the men and children killed to save the women alive. See, he's conveniently forgot about all those things when it's time for him to get punished. But see, everybody hurt when it's their child. Everybody hurt when it come to them. But he done forgot all that stuff that he did. Go ahead.
You know, what's interesting is that the man that's carrying it out is one of those who was saved from that same execution.
Right. The very one that was let go from that mass murder is the one who then orchestrates the mass murder of your children. Right. Oh, Yahweh poetic. Go ahead, bro.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 33. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, we all be dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe, and they bought of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians.
Yeah, when they get down to that point, they're going to be scared not to give you their stuff. Yeah, why don't you take this? This worth $50,000. Take that, put that, oh, that looks so good on your neck. Look at that, that is nice. You just go on and bless me also. Bye. Right. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, beside children.
This out, though. You have those that Yahweh is going to push them to do that, but you have Euro Gentiles that are already getting and setting themselves up to receive the blessing. Why? Because they're giving theirs up on their own. It's a big difference from giving yours up on your own and having Yahweh make you. See, it's some already securing their salvation. Hello. I know y'all Israel. Here, y'all take this and help the congregation out. Here, take this right here and help further Israel. Right. They seeing about themselves. Because it's all together something different when Yahweh got to make you do it. Go ahead.
Verse 38. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victual. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel, who dwelt in Egypt, was 430 years.
Right, and we know that they passed a resolution, and they want to celebrate the 400 years of us being here. Put them a little house resolution together. Right. Go ahead.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self-same day it came to pass, that all the host of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt.
430 years, even the self-same day. So we know that this is not the one that was prophesied in Genesis. It would have to be 30 years off, but then still exact to the same day. Go ahead.
It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. And Yahweh said unto Moshe and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof.
Right. Once he's entered into this covenant by shedding of blood. Even entered into the covenant, there's this thing of blood. Now you have this baptism, which is being baptized and then coming under the blood of the Messiah that he has shed. One way or another, there is, and like it always used to be. Back in the days, they would call people, if they two brothers would cut their hands and shake hands and say, we're blood brothers. The covenant was made through blood. Go ahead.
Verse 45.
Now, don't y'all try nothing like that now. Don't try that. That's dangerous. That is dangerous. Go ahead.
A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. You shall not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with you, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it.
You know, that's rather interesting. When a stranger shall sojourn with you and want to keep the Passover, let all his males be circumcised. That is rather interesting, that the whole house had to come under that covenant if they were going to walk in this word. Because we automatically know how people close to one another always end up pulling people off the path that they're supposed to be on. Well, if they're strangers, they already have a different custom. So when it comes down to this, you always say, all right, if a stranger going to deal with it, all they males have to be circumcised. And that is different from any other thing that you find in here. You read in other places, Yahweh says, the soul that sins, that is the soul that I will cut off. When it came down to the strangers, make sure that whole house is walking in that same direction. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem and a snare to them. Go ahead.
And he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourns among you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies.
So now you have all of these things. So now let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. Because by now, we should be well into preparing our houses for unleavened bread. Cleaning our houses and preparing to rid our houses of leaven. Leviticus 23, and we're going to read verses 1 through 14.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, Concerning the feast of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Shabbat of rest, an holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Shabbat of Yahweh in all your dwellings.
Right, so before he even deals with the feast, he lets you know the setup of the feast, which it is based on the Sabbath. There are 7 holy feasts of Yahweh. There are 7 holy days, and he gives you the breakdown. This is based upon this Yahweh's rest. It is based on, and everything that we come across ends up being based on these the same concept. That's why we have a 7-branch menorah. But you'll go to Jewish congregations and find you a 9-branch menorah. And you have to ask, when you read Isaiah 11 verses 1 and 2, you find the 7 spirits, and every last one of those, the Mashiach had all 7. So then you have to ask yourself, where are these, if these things correspond to spirits, who the hell them other 2 spirits is and where they come from? Because if you go into one of those stores and try to buy you a menorah, a 7-branch, they're going to ask you 7 or 9. Where the hell did 9 come from? That's automatically my question. Then they'll keep asking you questions. So what you want it for? Don't worry about what I want it for. Do you have a 7-branch menorah here? Yeah, I got one, but, and then the people tried to discourage me. But people are not, they're almost disappearing now. Really? Yeah, everybody gets denied. Right. 7, please. Go ahead, brother.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 4. These are the feasts of Yahweh, even holy convocations, when you shall proclaim them, which you shall proclaim in their seasons.
Mm-hmm.
In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread.
So you have Passover. The very next day begins the first day of unleavened bread. Unleavened bread is going to last for a week. So you have Passover one day. The next day begins unleavened bread. So back to back. Go ahead.
In the first day you shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
So the first day of unleavened bread is going to be a Sabbath no matter what day it falls on. Go ahead.
But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. And the 7th day is an holy convocation.
So the last day then of this, and the 7th day, will be another Sabbath. Go ahead.
You shall do no servile work therein.
That is work that you get paid for. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
This is showing respect unto Yahweh and unto the order that he has been the one that has provided for you. So the first fruits, that's the beginning of your increase, then is offered unto the priest. Go ahead.
And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it.
But see, the things that are set up along the way of Babylon, it is real easy to not give Yahweh his due because we don't have any crops. We're not growing anything. When we get paid, we don't even see cash. It's just money printed out on a piece of paper. Then you can spend the money without even seeing the money. They put the money in your account. You get a card and swipe it. The money gone out your account. You have gotten money, bought stuff, and still never seen the money. Go ahead.
And you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf an he-lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto Yah. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yah for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of an hin. And you shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears, until the self same day that you have brought an offering unto your Elohim. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
In all your dwellings. So then we have Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread. The very next day will be the Feast of First Fruits, which coincides to the resurrection of the Mashiach. If you read, of course, it says he was raised as first fruits unto men. So he was raised as first fruits unto men on first fruits. That is that 3rd day. So Yahweh has order in these things. Let's go to Numbers chapter 9. So when we do consider the things that we end up going through as Passover is coming in, it is not nearly tumultuous as what our forefathers had to go through. I mean, they're watching darkness, plagues, death. Do you know what the cry of an entire... imagine, I mean, you look at the news, hopefully it's something that, you know, you would not have to deal with, but people do. The loss of a child is a grieving thing. Now imagine an entire land crying because in every house there's a dead child. You have any idea what that cry's got to sound like? You look at TV and see one mama crying and it break your heart. Multiply that. And all of them crying at the same time. Men alike. Because the firstborn, this is supposed to be the beginning of your strength. This is supposed to be who is supposed to take on the direction of the father. This is who gets this double portion of the inheritance. And all that was taken. All in one night. Go ahead, bro.
You know, it's like you say, you don't really think about it because even those who would comfort are seeking to be comforted.
Right. And that's something that my elder used to ask all the time. Are you comforting the people or are you seeking to be comforted? And if you have, you know, the knowledge and understanding and walked in this word, why are you seeking to be comforted instead of comforting the people? Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 9 and verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the 1st month of the 2nd year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at this appointed season.
Now, this appointed season, there's an appointed time that these things are supposed to take place. And we see the growth that begins to happen. All of these trees, it is amazing. I had never even paid attention to any of this stuff. But that little tree we got in the parking lot that all the blooms come up white before the leaves turn green. Man, those trees are everywhere in Georgia. And you'll go into a neighborhood and the entire neighborhood is white with these blooms until it then turns green. I pulled up in one neighborhood and just stopped like, what the hell? I mean, they everywhere. Man, I never even noticed that stuff before I started reading this book. I was probably on my damn phone or something. I don't know. Read, man.
Verse 2. Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at his appointed season. In the 14th day of this month, at even, you shall keep it in his appointed season, according to all the rites of it, and according to all the ceremonies thereof shall you keep it. And Moshe spake unto the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover. And they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at even in the wilderness of Sinai.
And they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at even. The 14th day of the first month at even is the 13th day at even begins the 14th day. If you go to the 14th day and go to even, that's the 15th. Go ahead.
According to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe, so did the children of Israel. And there were certain men who were defiled by the dead body of a man, that they could not keep the Passover on that day.
Now keep in mind now, you got people that have their funerals inside the church. You have people that have dead bodies in the church ground that you actually have to walk through the dead bodies to get to the door of the church. It went right on right there. Or you drive down the street, you see they got the headstones in the front, and in the middle is the walkway to get into the church. So you walk right through the dead bodies. The Catholics proclaim that their whole church is buried on top of dead bodies. Say they got Peter in the basement. The whole damn gathering unclean. Go ahead.
And they came before Moshe and before Aaron on that day. And those men said unto him, We are defiled by the dead body of a man. Wherefore are we kept back, that we may not offer an offering unto Yah in his appointed season among the children of Israel? And Moshe said unto them, Stand still, and I will hear what Yahweh will command concerning you. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto Yahweh. The 14th day of the second month at even they shall keep it, and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They shall leave none of it unto the morning, nor break any bone of it. According to all the ordinances of the Passover they shall keep it. But the man that is clean and is not in a journey, and forbears to keep the Passover, even the same soul shall be cut off from among his people.
Wait a minute. It's the same thing that happened in Egypt. All the other plagues went and they had to do nothing. This last one, they had to mark over their door with the blood of the lamb, or the destroyer would destroy him. Now, you hear here, the man that is not on a journey or not defiled by a dead body, if he does not keep the Passover, he is cut off from among his people. Same thing Yahweh did before he even set the thing up. Go ahead.
Because he brought not the offering of Yah in his appointed season, that man shall bear his sin. And if a stranger shall sojourn among you, and will keep the Passover unto Yah, according to the ordinance of the Passover, and according to the manner thereof, so shall he do. You shall have one ordinance, both for the stranger and for him that was born in the land.
And we know that these things right here does not fit what the Jewish do. They have a totally different law if you're not Jewish. They don't have to respect you as a person if you're not Jewish. They don't have to abide by any of the commandments concerning you if you're not Jewish. That's not what this book says. That's why they have to have another book that okays all of these strange things that are so-called written by rabbis. Because the word of Moshe never gave us the okay to mistreat people because they were of another nation. That didn't come from this book. Let's go to Luke chapter 21, because there was one point in here where it talked about this appointed season, and you have to weigh that in the balance with the turmoil of the first Passover, and then the things that we have to deal with when the Messiah returns. Luke chapter 21, and read verse 25.
And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring.
So you have all of these things. Understand, these are weather-related events. Now, we have to keep the Passover in its season. But the closer and closer we get to the redemption of the Mashiach, seasons ain't going to be right. We had trees bloom, and then a cold snap came right behind it. So you're looking at spring flowers, and you got on a bomber jacket. What's going on in here, man? So this picture gonna look real strange if somebody took a picture of you. Why are you on a bomber jacket by the spring tree? Yeah, because that cold snap came right after that. Trees confused, the birds confused. They trying to fly south. They don't know which way is south because they done got down there and it's just a cold. So now you got some serious issues, and that's something that we're going to have to consider. The closer and closer that we get to the redemption of the children of Israel, that these are all weather-related things, and there should be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth, distress of nations. You talk about sea and the waves roaring, those storms. So those are serious disturbances that are not going to allow your regular things to take place. That is something that we're going to have to consider. Let's go to Exodus chapter 32. Because, you know, we got a whole lot of them people. They say, hey, we can't start our anything until, you know, there's a green ear in Israel. So I'm going to call back Israel, and I'm going to see if the stuff is growing there before we can do what we're doing here. Exodus chapter 32, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
And when the people saw that Moshe delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. First, for this Moshe, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him.
Now, understand that there's certain things that are going on here. Know that the people know Aaron more than they know Moshe. Aaron was raised up with them, okay? Moshe was not. He already had to be thrust out, so he was separated. He wasn't raised around them. He was separated from them, then come back. Aaron know all these people. So now this thing comes on to him. We don't know what's happened to this Moshe. Make us gods. Go ahead.
And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which
Stop. There was absolutely no pause whatsoever. We don't know what's happened to this man. Break off them earrings. Let's see if we can go ahead and make us a god. There was no pause. He didn't try to get these people to turn from this at all. But do understand, this is the man that Moshe insisted. Do you understand? Yahweh was dealing with Moshe. He said, you go and say this. He said, look, I can't talk well. I can't. He's scared. Well, there go your brother. He can talk well. Well, how about we go ahead and get your brother? All right. Now, this is the one he brought here. Understand that? That was who Yahweh was dealing with. Yahweh was dealing with him. He brought his brother. Go ahead.
And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings, which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be your gods, O Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt.
Right. These are the things that they were accustomed to. They've seen these things amongst the Egyptians consistently. So these gods here make them feel comfortable. Go ahead.
And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it.
Now they got an altar before the fake god. Go ahead.
And Aaron made proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast to Yahweh.
So we got a pagan god, a fake altar, and now it's the feast of Yahweh. Go ahead.
And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play.
Now, you got to understand one thing about pagan rituals. The pagan ritual starts with the ritual and ends with a drunken orgy. See that? What was that thing they call y'all bacchanal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, y'all get together and they get their little Jamaican dance on. And they end up with everybody dancing with everybody woman. Everybody doing their own little thing. Right. Bacchus is the god, the Roman god of wine and merriment, which ends up in a drunken festival where everybody gets naked. Well, they had a little fun, and then they rose up to play. All the pagan rituals are the same way. This is why you went to your little Easter egg hunt, not knowing that you dressed up your son and your daughter to be baby sperm. You got a little boy sperm, you got a little girl sperm, and then they all run around everywhere to try to fertilize the egg. And you participated in this ritual and thought you were just as holy. And you were celebrating a pagan fertility ritual. This is what their pagan festivals are about. They go through the little rites, and afterwards, let's get drunk and enjoy one another. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 7. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, go, get you down, for your people, which you brought up out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. And they have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, these be your gods, O Israel, which have brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, I have seen this people, and, behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my anger may wax hot against them, and that I may consume them, and I'll make of you a great nation.
Wait a minute, he was already trying to deal with Moshe anyway. See? Now, Aaron has, he got some power now because Moshe gone. All right, now everybody listen to me, he gone. Let's go ahead and let's do this thing. Okay, Yahweh goes right back to where he was before. Man, just move out the way. I'll make a whole nation out of you. Go ahead.
And Moshe besought Yahweh his Elohim and said, Yahweh, why does your wrath wax hot against your people, which you have brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, for mischief did he bring them out, to slay them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath, and repent of this evil against your people. Remember Abraham, Esaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you sweareth by your own self, and said unto them, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. And Yahweh repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people.
Yahweh repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people. But how did he appeal unto Yahweh? About preserving his holy name. It wasn't just about, he said this and Yahweh listened to him. He knew how to come at Yahweh. This is about glorifying your holy name. If you kill these people, you are going to tarnish your holy name. Go ahead.
And Moshe turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides, on the one side and on the other side, and on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of Elohim, and the writing was the writing of Elohim, graven on the tables. And when Yahshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moshe, there's a noise of war in the camp. And he said, it is not the noise of them that shout for mastery, Neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear.
They having a party now. It's fun time. We done already made the God now. We done already done the sacrifice. Now it's the party that comes after the pagan ritual. He said, no. I know what that is. That ain't war. No, that fun and games going on down there. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as soon as he came near unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moshe's anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strawed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it.
Hey, Moshe wasn't no punk. You gonna grind something to powder and put it in water and make them drink it. He about that life. Go ahead.
And Moshe said unto Aaron, What did this people unto you, that you have brought so great a sin upon them? And Aaron said, Let not the anger of my master wax hot. You know the people, that they are set on mischief.
Right. He has absolutely no pause or anything in that. Just, man, you know how the people are, man. Go ahead.
For they said unto me, Make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moshe, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what is become of him. And I said unto them, Whosoever has any gold.
Now he's reciting this right. Okay? It's the same way that we read earlier, and he has no pause whatsoever. And he's letting them know there was no pause. Man, you know how the people are. They wanted to feel, good about something, man. So, you know what I'm saying? I told them, man, just do this, and we can go ahead and make this God. Y'all feel comfortable. Go ahead.
Let them break it off. So they gave it me. Then I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf.
The calf just came out. They put it in the fire, and out popped an Egyptian god. How amazing. Go ahead.
And when Moshe saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among them their enemies.
Right.
Then Moshe stood in the gate of the camp and said, Who is on Yahweh's side? Let him come unto me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him.
Right. Levi is establishing himself as the servants of Yahweh and the executors of judgment. Because it says, who's on Yahweh's side? Go ahead.
And he said unto them, Thus said Yahweh Elohim of Israel, Put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moshe.
Right. So they killing Israel. But they just got through having them pagan festival mixed with all kind of disgusting dainties. Go ahead.
And there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. For Moshe had said, Consecrate yourselves today to Yahweh, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moshe said unto the people, You have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up unto Yahweh. Peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin. And Moshe returned unto Yahweh and said, Oh, this people have sinned a great sin, and have made them gods of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray you, out of your book which you have written. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Whoever has sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book.
At some point you have to realize each time Moshe is putting himself on the line for these people. And at some point you have to learn that you're going to have to step out of Yahweh's way. You can try your best to keep saving people, but at the end of the day, if they're going to keep and continue to walk the way that they want to walk, you have to step out of the way. At least Yahweh run over you, getting to them. Go ahead.
Just to go back on verse 25 where you're talking about, rise up and play. What we see here is both physical and spiritual
nakedness. Right. You have no more covering. Go ahead.
Therefore now go, lead the people unto the place of which I have spoken unto you. Behold, Mine angel shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit, I will visit their sin upon them.
I will visit their sin upon them. And it ended up, because they couldn't allow Egypt to come out of them, he had to kill off that whole generation. They would not allow the Egyptian thought process to come out from them. Go ahead.
And Yahweh plagued the people because they made the calf which Aaron made.
All right, let's go to Malachi chapter 2. And we have to understand and pay attention to the things that are written. He says, I'm going to bring all the children of Israel out of the lands in which they sojourn, but I'm going to purge out the rebels, and they will not go into Israel. Same thing we went through before, but it took 40 years then. It's going to be done in 3.5. Malachi chapter 2, and let's read verses 1 through 17.
And now, O you priests, this commandment is for you. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, says Yahweh of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yes, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed, and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feast, and one shall take you away with it.
Right. And you know, even when we do some mess, you know, we'll still show up to the feast. See, Yahweh said, I'm going to spread the dung, the doo-doo that come from your feast. I'm going to spread it on your face. Since you want to appear a certain way, I'm going to give you a way to appear. Go ahead.
And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, says Yahweh of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name.
Right. When he has that certain fear, and there's a fear of Yahweh, then there was a execution of righteous judgment. Go ahead.
The law of truth was in his mouth, and lawlessness was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did not turn many away from lawlessness.
He did turn many away from lawlessness. Go ahead.
Did turn many away from lawlessness. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the messenger of Yahweh of hosts. But you are departed out of the way. You have caused many to stumble at the law. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, says Yahweh of hosts.
Right. You cause others to stumble at the law when they see what it is you do. And then they say, okay, you're Israel, you this, but then you do this over here. Now they're stumbling at the law and think it's okay, because they're watching you. Go ahead.
Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as you have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Have we not all one Father? Has not one Elohim created us? Why do we deal treacherously every man against his brother, by profaning the covenant of our fathers? Yehuda has dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Yehuda has profaned the holiness of Yahweh which he loved, and has married the daughter of a strange god. Yahweh will cut off the man that does this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offers an offering unto Yahweh of hosts. And this have you done again, covering the altar of Yahweh with tears, with weeping, and with crying out, insomuch that he regards not the offering any more, or receive it with goodwill at your hand. Yet you say, wherefore? Because Yahweh has been witness between you and the wife of your youth, against whom you have dealt treacherously. Yet it is she, your companion, and the wife of your covenant. And did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of the Spirit. And wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. For Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, says that he hateth putting away. For one covers violence with his garment, says Yahweh of hosts. Therefore take heed to your spirit, that you deal not treacherously. You have wearied Yahweh with your words. Yet you say, wherein have we wearied him? When you say, everyone that does evil is good in the sight of Yahweh, and he delights in them. Or, where is the Elohim of judgment?
Right. Everyone that does evil is good in the sight of Yahweh. Then you have wearied him. And how do we make that proclamation? Because we hang out with him. Let's go to Judges chapter 17. So you automatically give you approval by being a part of something. Whenever they come through with a new cell phone plan or a new this or a new that, they didn't ask you for your signature. All you got to do is keep using it, and you have already agreed to the terms of the service. And they put that little block up right before you get ready to do it. We just click the block. We don't read none of it. We be in the middle of trying to make a call. I agree. We ain't read none of that stuff. Then when the bill come back and it's jacked up, we like, what in the world is this? You know that thing you had punched, that little square right there, you had punched, you agreed to. Right. Judges chapter 17, and let's start that at verse 1.
There was a man of Mount Ephraim, whose name was Micah. And he said unto his mother, the 1100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, about which you cursed, and spaketh of also in mine ears, behold, the silver is with me. I took it.
Now, pay attention now. There was a man of Mount Ephraim whose name was Micaiah. And he said unto his mother, the 1100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, about which you cursed. So he was cursing about the money that was gone. And spake also in mine ears. I heard you talk about the money. The silver is with me. I took it. Okay. So knowing all of that, knowing the words, I guess he finished doing whatever he needed to do with it. Go ahead.
And his mother said, blessed be you of Yahweh, my son. And when he had restored the 1100 shekels of silver to his mother said, I had wholly dedicated the silver unto Yahweh from my hand for my son, to make a graven image and a molten image.
Wait a minute. See, it's some strange things going on here. To make a graven image and a molten image. I've dedicated this money to do some foolishness. Go ahead.
Now therefore I will restore it unto you.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to you. I want you to do this foolishness. Go ahead.
Yet he restored the money unto his mother. And his mother took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to the founder, who made thereof a graven image and a molten image. And they were in the house of Micaiah. And the man Micaiah had an house of gods, and made an ephod and teraphim, and consecrated one of his sons, who became his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes. And there was a young man out of Bethlehem, Yehudah, of the family of Yehudah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. And the man departed out of the city from Bethlehem, Yehudah, to sojourn there, where he could find a place. And he came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micaiah, as he journeyed. And Micaiah said unto him, whence cometh you? And he said unto him, I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Yehudah, and I go to sojourn where I may find a place. And Micaiah said unto him, dwell with me, and be unto me a father and a priest, and I'll give you 10 shekels of silver by the year, and a suit of apparel, and your victuals. So the Levite went in.
So he'd been purchased at this point. Dwell with me, be a father and a priest. I'll pay you 10 shekels of silver by year, a suit of apparel, and I'll give you food. Go ahead.
And the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man was unto him as one of his sons. And Micaiah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and was in the house of Micaiah. Then said Micaiah, Now know I that Yahweh will do me good, seeing I have a Levite to my priest.
Since I done bought me a priest, I know some good things gonna happen to me. I know I got good things coming to me. Right. Let's go to chapter 18.
Yep. In those days there was no king in Israel, And in those days the tribe of Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in. For unto that day all the inheritance had not fallen unto them among the tribes of Israel. And the children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their coast, men of valor, from Zorah, and from Eshtal, to spy out the land, and to search it. And they said unto them, Go, search the land. Who when they came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micaiah, they lodged there. When they were by the house of Micaiah, they knew the voice of the young man the Levite. And they turned in thither, and said unto him, Who brought you hither? And what maketh you in this place? And what have you there?
Right. Why are you in here? What you doing here? You're a Levite. You're supposed to be a priest. What are you doing? Go ahead.
And he said unto them, Thus and thus dealeth Micaiah with me, and has hired me, and I am his priest. And they said unto him, Ask counsel, we pray you, of Elohim, that we may know whether our way which we go shall be prosperous. And the priest said unto them, Go in peace, before Yahweh is your way wherein you go. Then the 5 men departed, and came to Laish, and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless, after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure. And there was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything.
The magistrate is somebody that's going to execute any kind of laws and justice. So they dwelt carelessly after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure, and there's no magistrate that might put them to shame. So nobody said, hey man, that ain't right. Go ahead.
And they were far from the Zidonians, and had no business with any man. And they came unto their brethren to Zorah and Eshtal. And their brethren said unto them, What say you? And they said, Arise, that we may go up against them. For we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And are you still? Be not slothful to go and to enter to possess the land. When you go, you shall come unto a people secure, and to a large land, for Elohim has given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth. And there went from thence of the family of the Danites, out of Zorah, and out of Eshtal, 600 men appointed with weapons of war. And they went up, and pitched in Kirjath Jearim, in Yehudah, wherefore they call that place Mahana Dan, unto this day. Behold, it is behind Kirjath Jearim. And they passed thence unto Mount Ephraim, and came unto the house of Micaiah. Then answered the 5 men that went to spy out the country of Laish, and said unto their brethren, Do you know that there is in these houses an ephod, and teraphim, and a graven image, and a molten image?
Right. You know all this stuff in here? Go ahead.
Now therefore consider what you have to do.
Consider what you have to do. Now we know this stuff is in there. Go ahead.
And they turned thitherward, and came to the house of the young man the Levite, even unto the house of Micaiah, and saluted him. And the 600 men appointed with their weapons of war, which were of the children of Dan, stood by the entering of the gate. And the 5 men that went to spy out the land went up, and came thither, and took the graven image, and the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image, and the priest stood in the entering of the gate with the 600 men that were appointed with weapons of war. And these went unto Micaiah's house, and fetched the carved image, the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image. Then said the priest unto them, What do you? And they said unto him, Hold your peace, lay your hand upon your mouth, and go with us, and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be a priest unto the house of one man, or that you be a priest unto a tribe and a family in Israel?
Now you notice they hadn't destroyed any of the carved images or any of those things. So they still in the image and the priest. Just come with us. Go ahead.
And the priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod and the teraphim and the graven image, and went in the midst of the people. So they turned and departed, and put the little ones and the cattle and the carriage before them.
So the priest for hire done got a promotion then. Cause he was just, you know, he was just over one little house, and now he get to be over a tribe and a family, and then they can merge all day, deliciously devilish deeds all together. Go ahead.
And when they were a good way from the house of Micaiah, the men that were in the house near to Micaiah's house were gathered together, and overtook the children of Dan. And they cried unto the children of Dan, and they turned their faces, and said unto Micaiah, What aileth you, that you cometh with such a company? And he said, You have taken away my gods which I made, and the priest, and you're gone away.
You done took my gods and my priests, and you gonna answer me this? Go ahead.
And what have I more? And what is it? This that you say unto me, What aileth you? And the children of Dan said unto him, Let not your voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows run upon you, and you lose your life with the lives of your household. And the children of Dan went their way. And when Micaiah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back unto his house. And they took the things which Micaiah had made, and the priests which he had, and came unto Laish, unto a people that were at quiet and secure. And they smote them with the edge of the sword, and burnt the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Zidon, and they had no business with any man. And it was in the valley that lieth by Beth Rehob. And they built a city, and dwelt therein. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel. Howbeit the name of the city was Laish at first. And the children of Dan set up the graven image, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests of the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. And they set them up Micaiah's graven image, which he made, all the time that the house of Elohim was in Shiloh.
So they still have the graven image. They still have all of these things, and they have purchased a priest to keep those things going. And when you look at these things, when we deal with letting this Egyptian mindset come up out of you, it's the very same thing that we deal with today. The pastors get much money to mislead the people. They don't want for anything, but do understand, they've read this same book, they've studied this book, they know the name of Yahweh, they know what his name is. You're not going to go to somebody who is going to seminary school and that have not heard the name of Yahweh. You are fooling yourself thinking that you're telling them something. They know all of that. They have just made a decision on what it is they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Let's go to Romans chapter 2. And at the end of the day, there ain't much that you can do when a decision has been made about the path that is going to ultimately be taken. Romans chapter 2, and let's read verses 12 through 29.
For as many as have sinned without law shall also perish without law, and as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. For not the hearers of the law are just before Elohim, but the doers of the law shall be justified.
Not the hearers of the law shall be just before Elohim, but the doers of the law shall be justified before Elohim. So we can be Sabbath day Hebrews, just like we seen them Sunday Christian. You can do that all you want, but at the end of the day, Yahweh is not going to justify wickedness. So we can play all week and then get time, get ready to show a Sabbath face. You can go do that all you want. I ain't got no hidden key. I can't get you in no back door. I don't need to holler at me. Stop. Go around the backside and open the window. Ain't no need to holler at me. I'm trying to figure out my own salvation. Ain't no sneaking in. Go ahead.
For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these, having not the law, are a law unto themselves.
So it's already expounded their righteousness that they were not given the law, but still by nature are doing the things that are contained in the law. So these are things that you're not going to hear these televangelists who attack the law. They're not going to go at these things. They're going to leave this alone. Go ahead.
Which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another. In the day when Elohim shall judge the secrets of men by Yahshua the Mashiach, according to my gospel.
So then we know then, according to the New Testament, there's going to be a judgment. In the day when Elohim shall judge the secrets of men by Yahshua the Mashiach, according to my gospel. There is a judgment. But the Sunday morning doctrine say you die and go directly to heaven. So that then has bypassed judgment. That is what gives people the belief that they can do whatever they want to do. Because their doctrine does not include any judgment whatsoever. So that means you don't have to answer for anything that you have done. Go ahead.
Behold, you are called a Yehudi, and resteth in the law, and make your boast of Elohim.
Right, because you were taught the law. You are instructed out of the law. Go ahead.
And knoweth his will, and approveth the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law. And are confident that you yourself are a guide of the blind, a light of them which are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes, which has the form of knowledge and of the truth in the law. You therefore which teachest another, teacheth you not yourself? You that preacheth a man should not steal, does you steal?
Now, can we go be a priest in one stead and teach the people not to steal, and then we leave out of that place and go steal something? Go ahead.
You that says a man should not commit adultery, does you commit adultery?
Read the law and said, this what thus says Yahweh, do not commit adultery. Well, where you coming from? Oh, I was at Sharon's house. Well, is that your wife? No, that was his wife. Right. Read, man.
You that abhorreth idols, does you commit sacrilege? You that maketh your boast of the law, through breaking the law, dishonoreth you Elohim?
Right. Understanding that Israel is taught the understanding of the law. When you are breaking the law, you are dishonoring your Elohim. Because these people are saying, wait a minute, ain't you an Israelite? Go ahead.
For the name of Elohim is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written. For circumcision verily profits, if you keep the law. But if you be a breaker of the law, your circumcision is made uncircumcision.
Circumcision truly profits if you keep the law. These are not the things that you're going to hear when people are trying to attack the law and telling you that you have fallen from grace if you keep the commandments. See, they missed that part where the Messiah has come and magnified this law. He is taking Moshe's law and taking it to a whole nother level. Go ahead.
Verse 26. Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision? And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge you, who by the letter and circumcision does transgress the law? For he's not a Yehudi, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh.
For he is not a Yehudi, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. So I don't care how many fringe shirts you got. I don't care how many medallions you get, how many outfits you get. If you have decided that you're going to walk contrary to the very law that we are taught, you are not an Israelite. Go ahead.
But he is a Yehudi, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of Elohim.
But he is a Yehudi, which is one inwardly. And then this circumcision is a circumcised heart. A circumcised heart walks in the commandments of Yahweh, his Elohim, and wishes to please Yahweh, his Elohim. See, when we're talking about this Passover, we have things that starts to take place within this season. For unleavened bread, you start pulling out all of this leaven out of your houses. So in the midst of cleaning that house, that house become the most junky thing that you have ever seen. Because instead of straightening up, we actually clean it. So you pull all of that stuff out of them cabinets and sit it on that counter or sit it on that table and start going through those things and putting them in the right place that they belong in, separating the things that have leaven in them so you can use those things and then get them out of your house. Well, those same things take place within our lives as Yahweh is trying to straighten out our lives, and he start pulling all that stuff that you got hid in them cabinets and start putting it all on the table. If we don't allow that to happen, our lives not going to get straightened out either. These ceremonial rites are things that are practiced year by year so that we can start to understand the things that Yahweh does within our own lives. This whole thing of going through the atonement, denying this flesh, understanding is during those things that you understand that you can deny the flesh. Within a 24-hour fast, you get hungry about 5 or 6 times. And within that 24-hour fast, you swear down that if you don't eat right now, you're going to die. That flesh lie to you. And that flesh make you to believe that you got to do this right now. You let it slide. Get what happened? 30 minutes later, you forgot you were hungry. You said, dang, I was so convinced I was going to die if I didn't eat. 30 minutes later, I forgot I was hungry. Then you realize, wait a minute, if I can fight that flesh on that level, then there's other levels that I can fight this flesh. There's other things that flesh tell you. You got to have this. You got to do that. You got to do this over here. That's why certain things happen. And I just pause for a second. If you notice, every sale has got to be right now, limited time only. Because they need you to go ahead and make that decision before you think. Everything is a rush situation. When you get into them rush situations, sit down for a second. Somebody say, oh, I got to do this, and we got to do this right now. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Wait a minute, but no, we got to make the decision now. No, I ain't making that decision now. Because see, then I make that decision out of haste, and my flesh is in more control than I want it to have. Let's wait for a minute. Let's see if I still feel this way tomorrow or next week. Let us consider these things, because Passover and unleavened bread is not just about us pulling some things out of our cabinet. We got a cabinet that we hold right up here. And the question is, are we going to let Yahweh pull them things out of that cabinet and straighten those things out? That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.